This channel is called Vedic Spirituality. My website is called vedicspirituality.com, and I am practicing Vedic astrology. So what is this Vedic all about? In this video, I will give you a short summary of the vast Vedic worldview. Vedic refers to the Vedic literature, the ancient Sanskrit texts of India. And according to the understanding of the Vedas about themselves, all these texts were compiled by one person. His name is Vedavyas, and he's a sage that lived 5,000 years ago. And according to the Vedic history, he could foresee that we will enter into a dark age where people will become less inclined to understand spiritual subjects, who will be less intelligent and less capable of memorizing everything. So he took the knowledge that was already there in human society and he wrote it down and compiled 4 Vedas and 18 Puranas. Puranas are history books. And he entrusted each of the Vedas to his disciples. So the cool thing about the Vedic system, according to my opinion, is that this knowledge is still alive. So the disciples of this Vedavyas, their lineage is still intact, and the original meaning as it was intended by the author is still lived by and also taught. So we can go to India, we can meet these sadhus, these saints, and we can listen from them the interpretation of the Vedas, and we can be sure that this is the authentic, original meaning of the Vedas. So it's not about to go to bookshop, buy some books, and then make up your own mind for whatever it may mean. Probably we will not understand as it is. So the Vedas, as I mentioned, there are 4 main Vedas and 18 Puranas. And besides that, there's also the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata is the history of the kings 5,000 years ago in India. What happened there? There was a big war and so on. And the Mahabharata contains the Bhagavad Gita. So that was my first introduction to Vedic literature. And this is, so to say, the primary study for anyone new to the Vedic literature. And it is basically for us Westerners who are born and brought up far away from any type of Vedic etiquette, very difficult to become Vedic scholars. You have to be born in a family that trains the children from childhood to read Sanskrit and understand the subtleties of the Vedic literature. So for us, it's basically impossible to go through the Vedas, the main Vedic texts. But the books like the Bhagavad Gita or then the Srimad Bhagavatam, they're sufficient for us to actually understand what's the main essence. They're also known as the essence. Like the description given or the example given figuratively about the Bhagavad Gita is like the Vedic literature is like a cow that fulfills all the wishes, and the Bhagavad Gita is the milk. So really the essence that comes from this Vedic organism, so to say. And drinking that milk, it will nourish us sufficiently. And also this Srimad Bhagavatam, it is known as the last contribution of Vyasadeva. And the story here is that he was not satisfied after he compiled all the Vedas, and after consulting with his spiritual master, Narada Muni, he could understand that he missed to emphasize the most important thing within the Vedas, and that if somebody is not sincere enough, he will not find the essence easily within the Vedas. So therefore, he compiled again the last one, his last contribution, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and made it it cannot be misunderstood what is the essence then. So this is the Srimad Bhagavatam. So in this video, I'm going to I have prepared a small presentation that will summarize the whole Vedic worldview. So where we are coming from, how this world works, what is our duty as human beings, what is our position as human beings. So it is a vast topic, and obviously volumes of books can be written about that, but I'm trying to summarize it in a short time with a few slides. So let's get started. So one thing I would like to add is that in terms of astrology, the main Vedas, they contain something, but mainly astrology are dealt in additional books, Samhitas, and they are not authored by Vyasadeva himself, but by different authors. Like for instance, Parashara Vora Shastra is written by the sage Parashara, and he's actually the father of Vyasadeva, Parashara. Or there is the Bhrigu Samhita, which is authored by Bhrigu Muni. Or the Jaimini Sutras, they are authored by Jaimini. And then through the centuries and millennia, there were other authors who came and added important works to astrology. So astrology is an anga, that means a limb of the Vedic knowledge, Vedanga Jyotish. And there is also references to astrological principles within the main Vedas. Like even also the Srimad Bhagavatam mentions the planets and the main characteristics of them, the zodiacs and the path of the sun and various things. But the main Vedic astrology treatises, they are mentioned in the additional Samhitas. This is a very, very difficult subject matter. It has so many details, incredibly much details. So I tried to summarize it and make it simple by this diagram. So this is actually the last slide of my presentation. And we're gonna go through each single step here one by one after this slide. But here we can basically see that we are here and we are within the material world, within the material cosmic manifestation. And this cosmic manifestation is managed by the planets and their various demigods. So the Vedic understanding for that definitely is a very theistic understanding. And it does not deny the modern science. Whatever the science have proven and so on, that is obviously that is correct. But it is it goes further. It is based on consciousness. So that's the main difference between the modern scientific understanding of the world and the Vedic understanding, is that in modern science, matter is the basis of everything. And the matter has its laws, and due to this law, everything happens. The Big Bang happened and stuff floats around, and due to gravity and the laws of gravity, stars start to turn and start to condense and start to this and that. So everything is based on matter in modern science understanding. But the Vedic understanding says everything is based on consciousness. So the very easy term to remember is life comes from life. So in a Vedic way, we disagree. The main thing that we disagree with modern science is that life is not an intricate result of matter, but life is itself, in itself, life. It's spiritual. So there is the Bhagavad Gita says in the 7th chapter that there are two different types of energies that make this world, and this one is a lower energy, the material energy. I have in here this diagram. I have entered these 8 elements here. There are 3 subtle elements: false ego, intelligence, mind, and 5 gross elements: ether, air, fire, water, and earth. And this is the material elements. And this is comprises the lower. These 8 elements. They are the lower energy, and there is a higher energy, which is the living entity, which are sparks. That means in our experience we have that this body we are having, or also the body of an animal, of a tree or whatever, it grows because of the presence of the soul. And as soon as the soul leaves the body, this body is just a lump of matter and will just disintegrate, or how English, my second language, sorry. It will just dissolve into nothing. I mean, the elements will go back to the elements, right? So life is not based on matter, as the modern science says, but the Vedic understanding is life comes from life. And ultimately, the source of life, and ultimately also the source of matter, that is the Supreme Lord. Yes. So for outsiders, it may seem that Vedic worldview is polytheistic, and we have many gods, right? And there's also many gods of many forms of God, but ultimately it is one supreme person, and that supreme person, this is Krishna. And Krishna, the Supreme Lord, he is not alone. No, why should he be alone? He's always in association with so many associates. So and that is especially then the subject matter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. This describes how the Lord interacts with all his devotees. There is like one part, the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, especially deals with the dealings between Krishna and the gopis, his most intimate girlfriends, so to say. But this is a very advanced subject matter. So Krishna, he's the one Supreme Lord, and he's the source of life. Oh, I think I didn't show you. Yeah. So Krishna, he's that one Supreme Lord, and he's the source of life. He's the seed-giving Father. And we living entities, we are all part and parcels of that Supreme Lord. So he's like the fire, and the fire has sparks. So if ever you have experienced a fire in a forest, so many sparks are flowing out. And this fire, these sparks, these are we are also fire, but we are very small, and he's the big fire. So we are simultaneously one with the Lord, in the sense that we are from the same energy. Same like a drop of water from the ocean is salty, and the water, the ocean is salty, the same quality, but the quantity is different. So he's unlimitedly big, and we are unlimitedly small. And this, when we look at this picture again, we can see that like the spiritual world is where we, as the sparks, we are within the fire, and we are still in this association very closely. But in the material world, it is like our fire will go out. When you observe the fires when you a campfire, the sparks that will go out from the fire, they very soon they lose their quality of being hot and illuminated. And that is similar to the souls that are going into the material world. So the souls that are going in the material world, they are like the sparks that are going out of the main association of the fire. And there, the spirit soul, so the consciousness, starts to associate with matter. And within that matter, the very first thing that happens when the spirit soul comes in contact with the material energy is that false ego is created. So actually the way it happens is that the Krishna, in the form of Mahavishnu, let's go one by one. So Krishna, he expands himself in various forms, because every living entity has a different approach to the Lord, and accordingly the Lord shows himself to him. So it depends on how our relationship with him, and accordingly God has different forms, different humors, different ways. And he manifests various forms in the spiritual world also, but it's still the same person, but because he's unlimited, he can have unlimited forms. And in one part, she manifests as the Mahavishnu, where he lies down on an ocean of material energy. That's the source. And this material energy also is coming from his body. It's like a shadow energy. Like the example that is given is also that as a snake, they cannot grow their skin, right? They have these scales, they cannot grow their skin. So sometimes they shed the skin. They have to shed and the old skin. So this old skin still looks like a snake, but it comes from the snake. It's a expansion of the snake, but it's kind of like regarded. So similarly, the material energy is a lower energy, and what we enjoy in our life, like ice cream or sex, whatever, what we enjoy in our life, that is actually a lower type of enjoyment. And for the Lord, this is not interesting. He has no interest in this material enjoyment. The enjoyment that is in the spiritual world, within the spiritual love exchange, it's pure and much more relishable than the enjoyment of the material world. So the material energy is a lower thing, and it is meant for those living entities which are reluctant to be servants of the Lord, because as a part and parcel, we always have to be serving the bigger picture, right? A screw in a machine has no separate existence beside holding together a certain part of the machine, or a leaf of the tree has no separate existence from the tree. It always is there to do its part within the whole organism of the tree. So similarly, the living entity is a part of the Lord, of the Supreme Lord Krishna, and as such we have a specific duty. We are there to serve the whole. We are therefore the original pure identity of the soul is to be a servant of God. Like a leaf is part of a tree, but we have an independence. We can choose. Otherwise, there will be no love. So that's the important thing. Unless we have an independence to choose to say yes, we want to serve Krishna, or no, we don't want. Unless the choice is there, we are not individuals with our own free will, and then the law of exchange is also not possible. Otherwise, we are just machines. You can create a robot that actually does your bidding, and he will do all the things to you that you want. It will not be the same like you have a real individual living being, and that being, or that your partner, out of his own choice, loves you. That's two different things. The other one is machine. So in a similar way, we are given independence. And so there is a choice that we can do, whether we want to be part of this organism, God, part of the tree, and be servants of God, or we want to enjoy on our own. And for those who want to enjoy on their own, the material world is created or is provided. And the material world creation, it looks like this, that this Mahavishnu, he lies down there's a cloud within the spiritual sky, and he lies down on these waters. That's the ocean of cause, the causal ocean. This is seen here on this picture. And he lies down in that ocean, and when he's breathing out, bubbles come from his pores. So, and within each of these pores, there is one universe. And Lord Vishnu, the Mahavishnu, he glances over this material energy, and with his glance, he impregnates the material world with the living entities, with the spiritual sparks. So basically, the Supreme Lord Krishna, he has three energies: the spiritual energy, which is manifesting the spiritual world. And in the spiritual world, there is Bhagavan, that's the Sanskrit word for the Supreme Lord. Bhakta is the word for the living entities, which means that they are servants of the Lord, and they extend bhakti to Bhagavan. So bhakti, that word is actually the description of the love exchange between the individual soul with the Supreme Lord, with the summum bonum of everything. And there you might know the term Bhakti Yoga. So Bhakti Yoga is actually the original yoga. That's the original thing that actually connects us as an individual with the whole, with the Supreme Lord. And that Supreme Lord is a person. No, that's very important. That is especially very, very clear within the Srimad Bhagavatam. That the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Truth is a person. So there are other spiritual traditions or ideas in that are associated with Vedic literature, and they say that Supreme Lord is a light, and there is oneness is the ultimate goal, and mukti is the ultimate goal. But that is not the original Vedic thought given by Vyasadeva, the author or the compiler of the Vedic literature, and definitely not what he describes within the essence. I mean, his most recent, most important book, the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the Bhagavatam itself says there are actually three aspects of this absolute truth. And one is that it's the impersonal Brahman aspect, on which we realize the eternity and the oneness of everything. So that is an important realization, and that corresponds with this Sat aspect. Then there's the Chit aspect, the consciousness aspect, and that has to do with the super soul, paganism, not paganism, so it's pantheism. It is called pantheism. And pantheism is the realization that God is within everything. It is within the heart, it is of every living entity, it is within every atom, and He's all-pervading and all-present. So this is the second aspect. But the third and the most complete aspect is God is a person with whom we can have a loving exchange. And that is here, Bhagavan, that is that third aspect. So this is Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. That's the Sanskrit word. And that is the Satchit Ananda aspect. So the real bliss, the real transcendental pleasure is experienced in the exchange between the devotee, the bhakta, with Bhagavan, the Supreme Lord, the person Lord, the person Supreme Lord, in exchange of this love, this bhakti. And there is the Supreme, that Ananda is realized there. So Satchit Ananda is the spiritual world. The spiritual energy is eternal, full of awareness and consciousness, and full of ever-increasing happiness, which is happening in this exchange of Bhagavan and Bhakta through Bhakti, right? So this is the first energy of the Lord. The second is the material energy. And as we have discussed here in this on this slide, that is for those living entities who want to become happy independent from the Lord, who are not want to be part of this, want to be servants of the Lord. They want to enjoy independently from the Lord. And these living entities, they're marginal. Marginal means in between. So there is like the ocean and there is the land. And between the land, there is this shoreline, very fine shoreline, which is like neither ocean, neither land. There's the marginal place. And the marginal energy means this is a spiritual energy as well. It is consciousness, sparks of consciousness. These are we living entities, are these marginal energy. And we have the choice to either go and to the material part or to the spiritual part. So we have this freedom, we have this choice, this freedom of choice. And we, living entities, we are, by the glance of Mahavishnu, we are put into the womb of this material energy. So, and this material energy has three basic modes. This material energy has three basic modes. This is the Sattva Guna, Rajaguna, Tamaguna. So three modalities. So the Tamaguna has to do with destruction, has to do with degradation, has to do with ignorance, sleep, this giving harm to others. The Rajaguna has to do with expansion, growth, material desires, enjoying the world. This is all to do with the Rajaguna. And the Sattva is the mode where we are actually going towards the spiritual world. We are gaining knowledge, gaining awareness. We are striving for purity. We are striving for knowledge, and so on. So these three motive natures, they are like the basic code of the material world. Like in digital things, I mean, if we code the computer how it works, it has 2 digits. Electricity on, electricity off, 1 and zeros. No, that is the digital thing. The digital is 2 digits. Digital digits, yeah, 2 digital. Anyway, 2 digits, and basically with these 2 digits you can recreate or program any type of picture, video, sound, and so on. So therefore, the computer works like this. So in a similar way, this experience we have in this material world has 3 digits, and these 3 digits are Sattva, Raja, Tama, and everything we experience are a combination of these things. Fun fact, I don't know, I didn't read it from the source material of the Vedic Sanskrit literature, but it is mentioned in in one book I read from one devotee that the DNA has 4 digits, right? There are 4 different types of amino acids, and he said that they're correspondent to Raja, Tama, and Sattva guna, and the 4th one is to make a repeat something from before. But anyway, but it gives some idea how this is the most basic ingredients, the basic digits from which this material manifestation is created. So the next, the material energy, as soon as living entities, the spiritual sparks, are coming into contact with material energy, in the interaction with Sattva guna, Raja guna, and Tama guna, the elements are created. So we have already talked about this before, that the first one is false ego, and this false ego covers the original knowledge of the soul, because the soul is spiritual, and as such, the spirit soul actually is Satchidananda, means by its nature, it is blissful, it always searches for happiness. It doesn't need to search, it is just blissful within itself. It is eternal, there is no birth and death to the soul. It is uncreated, it is always there, and this is not understandable by our limited mind. It can be realized through spiritual practice, but it cannot be understood within our mental faculties, that we are unborn. In the material world, we always need a beginning and an end. That's the way it works. So, but the soul is actually unborn. It is eternal, and it is full of knowledge and happy within itself, completely happy. So this is the nature. So this false ego, this is the first and most subtle material element that covers it up. So this Satchidananda will be covered up by a false ego, and then it has intelligence and mind. The mind is our cognitive functions, our intelligence, our power to differentiate between things, our power to like and dislike things, to feel emotions. These are these elements. So I find it quite groundbreaking information that actually what we identify with, and what we feel and what we think and what we do within our mind alone, what speak about the gross body, is actually not the real self. The real self is behind that, and is much deeper than that. And the spiritual Vedic quest actually is then to uncover this and found our true eternal identity. Yes. So this is this is the subtle body. There is like the inner body, the subtle body, and then the gross body is then made out of the gross elements. So it's not quite correct, but to make it a little bit more relatable in terms of our modern scientific understanding, we can say that these elements are more like states of matter, like air is gaseous, water is liquid, earth is dense things like metals, and fire is the state of transformation, and ether is the very subtle thing that in which the light and gamma rays and all X-rays and all these things work. So we can consider it like that. So Mahavishnu, those souls which are not willing to be part of this party up here in the spiritual world, and they want to say, I screw the Lord, I want to join myself. They are given into the womb of the material world, and they are given, we can say, like a prison costume. And so to say, this body and this mind that we have is like a costume given to us in order to experience the material world and to have this material experience. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. And this is a very nice picture that demonstrates that we are actually sitting inside. I think I have another picture, this one. We are like sitting inside the body. This is the intelligence who is driving the car, that body, and the mind who controls the senses. This is the reins of the chariot, and then the senses, the 5 senses that are comprising the body. Of course, also the 5 working senses, like the arms, the hands, and the speech, and so on. This comprise the body. And we are actually the spirit soul inside this chariot and just experiencing. We're just witnessing what's going on. And due to the false ego, the false ego, we are identifying with this. We are thinking we are that, but actually we are not. We are eternal living beings, moving from one body to another body, life after life, to one identity to another identity. And we are just sitting there and we are just witnessing. We are witnessing the good things and the bad things, and we think we enjoy, we not enjoy. So there is, like, to understand how this actually works, that you might have experienced yourself or have seen others. Let's say somebody has a new car and he worked really, really hard to get this car. And for a decade, he put money aside to buy his dream car, let's say, a Lamborghini or whatever. I'm not into cars, I don't know so much. Or a BMW, a nice BMW, big one, a family car, no? So he can drive around and bring his kids nicely, and so has a big BMW. So let's say his wife borrows the car, and you're at home in the garden, and you see your wife coming, but then you see that she is not taking the turn nicely and makes a big, huge scratch in that car from the lantern or when something that is standing there. And while you see this car, the iron of the fence, let's say the iron of the fence just presses inside the lock, the finishing of the car, and makes a big scratch, and you hear it screaming. You feel the pain through all your body, and you just would like to die. No, you're not that car. That car is completely something else. It's something nothing to do with your existence. But just you identify so much with that car because so much attachment is for that car. You have worked so hard for that car that you feel the pain within the car, in the car. Though you actually should not, right? So that's actually our relationship with this body is the same. We are just feeling, because we're so much absorbed and so much identified with this body, that we feel the pain. And so this picture illustrates this very, very well. And our whole experience that we are having here in this material world, all the happiness, distress, all the troubles and desires, the ambitions, the achievements, the failures, everything we have, they are orchestrated by these three modes of material nature, Sattva, Raja, and Tamaguna. And we are just basically sitting inside and experiencing that. And this whole experience that we are having here in this material world, like I said, our failures and happiness and distresses and whatnot, they are created also by the agency, through the agency of the demigods. So I mentioned in the beginning that this is a very theistic worldview, the Srimad Bhagavatam, or the Vedic understanding. And with theistic, actually, we can say that the principle is consciousness is always above matter. So matter itself has no free will. Like if here this piece of matter, you can just do this when it wants. It has no own desire. It cannot do anything. It always needs a consciousness behind that operates it. Like a car cannot drive by its own. Even if it's a self-driving car nowadays with algorithm, there is still a person behind who has programmed that algorithm. And it has very much limitations. It's not like an independent, feeling and willing living being as we are. So artificial intelligence, though it is very much hyped, it will never be possible. It's just not, it's just out of, it is the wet dreams of the artistic class of men who believe that matter is the source of everything. But it is not based in reality. So in the Vedic sense, as I said, it's a theistic understanding, means consciousness is above matter. So as we see, the bodily functions are only happening as long the consciousness, the soul is present. As soon at the time of death, the soul leaves the body, then the bodily functions stop, right? So similarly, within the body of the universe, the cosmic body, so to say, the cosmic, the different functions of matter, like fire, like gravitation, like that we are pulled down, the light, the ability to see, the fire, or in fire there are various chemical reactions happening within the fire. Within ice that melts and ice that water that evaporates, and all these various functions that are happening within the matter, the theistic understanding says that these things happen, there is still a consciousness behind that induces matter to do that. And these are the demigods, these are the various gods. So here in this slide, I've introduced them just with the symbols of the planets, because the planets, they're also deities in the Vedic understanding. And also the heavenly planets, not heavenly planets, I mean the planets, they are the abodes, according to Vedic cosmology. They're the abodes of these higher dimensional beings who control the various functions of the cosmos. So through the agency of these demigods and planets, the three modes of nature, they do this to us. And so the various planets, they rule different things. Like for instance, if you have already watched my crash course, where you can master astrology in 1 hour, in the list that I'm giving there is the different characteristics of the planets mentioned, and also what type of body fluid they control. So for instance, Mars rules the blood, is connected to the blood. So from the position of the blood within the chart, from the position of Mars within the chart, we can understand how strong and how healthy is the blood. Or from Venus controls the semen, the ability to procreate within the woman, also the egg, within the man, the semen. So from the health of Venus, we can understand how fruitive, how I say, how fruitive, how much is the ability to procreate within the living being, because all these functions inside the body, the different elements that are working together, and these functions of digestion, the function of seeing, they're able to hear, they're able to think, process thoughts, all these functions, they're all still controlled by different demigods. Right? And therefore astrology works. Therefore, astrology is a language that reads the various influences of these demigods on us, and by that we can understand how is the health constitution, how is the mind constitution of the person, and so on. So then we are here, and we have our human experience. We as consciousness, we're sitting in this apparatus that is run by this whole machine of material manifestation, and we experience our anger, happiness, love and romance and frustration and so on, wonder, success and failure. And yeah. So then another one interesting thing is that that is the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita discusses this very nicely. It's one of my favorite things at the moment, at least. That when the living entity comes in contact with the material world, within its cognitive functions, means within the intelligence and mind, and also the senses, when it is in contact with the sense objects, then there is an attachment that develops to that, and from that desire comes lust. And if lust is frustrated, we are not getting what we want, we become angry. And then if then this keeping going on, it will churn within ourselves, and greed will develop, and that greed will cloud our intelligence, and we are developing misconceptions and fall into illusions, and then pride and envy. So these are like the 6 enemies, and this happens within the cognitive function of the living entity within the material world, and by this we are conditioned. So I wrote here Nityabada. Nityabada means eternally bound up, eternally conditioned. And what we are conditioned by? We're conditioned by the 6 enemies. And if you analyze, especially when you start to practice spiritual life, if we analyze our whole life, whatever we experience within the material life, within the material world, our happiness and distress all comes from these 6 enemies. If our desire is fulfilled, we'll become happy. If not, we become unhappy. If our pride is nourished and we say, oh yes, I'm great, we'll feel happy. But if our pride is crushed, we become unhappy, and so on. And we talk to others, oh, you see, this person is not nice, and she did this and this and this. So this is envy. So actually the material life, whatever is going on in that movie of our life, is only made of these things. And this happens when we are focusing our consciousness, our God-given consciousness, on the material world, on the materialistic things. Then this is the result of it. It has to happen. And by this we become conditioned. So the Vedic quest is then to become free from that. So, and how to do that? For that is the next slide. So the Supreme Lord, according to Vedic understanding, he has not only just manifested this world and given all the living entities who don't want to enjoy with him in the material spiritual world as servants of him, has given this material world to, on one hand, enjoy, on the other hand, also to rectify ourselves and to come back. So along with the manifestation of the world, he has also given this Vedic knowledge. And this Vedic knowledge is not a book. In fact, it is alive within the heart of saints. And that is an uninterrupted chain of master to disciple. And the very first living entity that gets this knowledge is the first living entity of the world, within the material universe. This is Brahma. This is the first demigod, so to say. And he's also the first one who received this knowledge. And he had his son Narada, and he's going around in the universe and preaching this and giving this message from the spiritual world, brings it to the living entities. And the process of this, how we can see here, is that we actually listen. Means it is based on listening. So the master speaks and the disciple listens, and by listening and becoming so roughly convinced of the truth of the soul, the truth of the Supreme Lord, and the true nature of happiness and distress, that Vedic knowledge becomes more prominent and alive within the heart of the listener, and that will enable him to come out of this conditioning of lust, anger, greed, illusion, pride, and envy, and develop bhakti, develop love for God. And when he leaves this body in this consciousness, then he can go back into the material world, the spiritual world. But if we are still remaining unsatisfied within the material world with various desires and frustrations and dislikings of others and misconceptions, then we will have to take birth again and again in this world until this is resolved and we are free. We realize our Satchit Ananda nature of the soul, that we are eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss, and that we can experience this in the association of the Lord by rendering service, devotional service, which is bhakti, to him. And this is learned through the disciplic succession. And this Vedic knowledge descends through the disciplic succession into the world. And according to Vedic scriptures, there are 4 bona fide successions in this world. So I am initiated in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, and my grand spiritual master, grand means not my spiritual master of my spiritual master. His name is A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. I'll show you a picture. 1 second. Oh, look at that. Here are the pictures. Here. This is it. And this is also here, actually. This painting is a very beautiful painting. And he brought this knowledge into the English language for the first time by the instruction of his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. You can see here on this page the disciplic succession. There are much more than just these. It's a long chain of disciples and masters. And just interestingly, just in the end, I would like to add is that according to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, means the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada, who brought this knowledge into the West. And also, by the way, he's the one who translated these books, the Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavad Gita, into English. So, according to his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, as you can see him here, the only difference between this Vaishnavism or this Vedic understanding and Christianity is only that according to Christianity, there is only one guru, and that is Jesus Christ. But basically, it's also the same, that there is the Supreme Lord. We are supposed to be with Him. We are supposed to love Him and serve Him. It's the Supreme, our real Father. And Jesus Christ, He came in this world and He brought this knowledge or this message. And by accepting Jesus Christ, we go back into the union of God, in the loving union of God, right? This is Christianity in a nutshell, and this happens through Jesus Christ, right? But so they have only one guru through all these years of Christianity. They only refer to this Jesus Christ, and if you accept Jesus Christ, you go back to God, back to Godhead. And the only difference between that tradition and our tradition, or this Vedic tradition, is that we don't have one guru. We have a chain, an uninterrupted chain of gurus, of spiritual masters. And guru is not a cheap word. There's a certain standard to it, and it has become a very widely used word, and usually it is. This also has a bad connotation to it, because like business gurus are those who are cheaters and selling fake courses to just pull the money out of your pocket. But guru in this sense is the one who is taking away the darkness. Guru, it's the liberating form from guru. That is the word significance, means who enlightens us, who takes us out from the entanglement within this psychological conditioning that we are in, and who shows us the path to the real eternal life full of knowledge and bliss in the association of the Supreme Lord. So that is guru. That's the function of guru. And the only difference between Christianity and this, the main difference, I mean, if you want to be petty and you want to argue, you have so much to argue about, no problem. But if we go into the essence of both, the only difference is Christianity has only one person through whom this happens, and in Vedic way, we have a chain of uninterrupted persons, and you have to take shelter with someone who is alive now, and in whose heart this Vedic knowledge is alive right now, and you have to associate with him in person, and you have to see how he talks, how he lives. All these impressions will make you understand what this knowledge is about, and you have to foremostly you have to listen from him. You have to sit down and hear him speak about the nature of the soul, the original position of the soul, the position of the Supreme Lord, the relationship between the Lord and our soul. And all this is described in the literature, so they will always refer to this, to Srimad Bhagavatam, to the Bhagavad Gita, and so on. Yes. So in terms of astrology, astrology is then actually working on this level, where we see how these demigods, how the planets, they are doing this to us. Actually, this is the proper picture. So this is astrology. We are reading now. This is just described as the ultimate authority, and through the three modes of nature, so the material energy, he is controlling our life. But astrology just goes into very detail on this level. The different demigods, the planets, the nakshatras, the tithis, and all these things, how they actually they create our experience in our life. Okay. So I hope this was insightful. I hope it was not too much. It's quite a lot to take in, of course. It's really, really vast subject matter. And about this, hours and days and weeks and months can be talked about this. There's so many details. There's so much to know. It's endless. It's completely endless. It's an ocean of knowledge. So with this video, I tried to somehow summarize it and give you one drop of this vast ocean. I hope it was enjoyable and understandable, and thank you very much for listening. If you have any question, put it in the comments below. I would be very happy to answer it. And make sure you leave a like and subscribe. This will help the channel to grow, right? And if you know anyone who might be interested in this type of things, please share the video to them. And see you in the next one. So there's a lot to talk about. So a lot more is going to come. Thank you very much.